Good evening, this is the 7 o'clock, March 26th, 2014 meeting of the Finance Committee. It's about 7 o'clock. Our agenda tonight is, we've got budgets to review from Youth Commission, Department of Development and Inspectional Services, Department of Public Services, Library, Department of Public Services, Senior Center, Elder Affairs, and a couple of transfers. First off, is there anyone recording this evening? There being none, that's great, thank you. And let's just get right to this. Got a Youth Commission on first. I know we have a crowd here with a presentation. Introductions, please, although they're not necessary.
Hi, Norma Flash, Chairman of the Auburn Youth Commission.
Good to see you, Norm.
It's always good to come up and talk to you guys. I'll be back again in a few weeks to talk to you, to the Board of Selectmen and do some other stuff too. But tonight it's about Auburn Youth and Family Services. And we have actually asked for an increase this year over the normal budget that we have. And the reason we're doing that is for the last 6 years, we've actually maintained level budget at $110,000. And it's been, you know, the money goes a long way and helps the things that they have, but we have contracted out services with Auburn Youth and Family Services. And over these last 6 years, when the economic times were getting tougher, Auburn Youth and Family Services is an organization where the calls for the people and the needs that they serve increases. And that has been the case almost since back in 2008 when the recession started hitting and we started losing money and stuff. Their services and the call for their services and the things that they offer to the town has not just gradually increased, it has sharply increased over that amount of time. So for this year, we have asked for a $15,000 increase over what we had. And I know that sounds like a lot compared to where we are, but the truth of the matter is, for the services that we contract out, that is the $125,000 that it would actually come to is greatly under the amount of money that is needed for the services that they provide and they continue to provide. You know, and you can say, well, you can cut back or do whatever. The need, the call, the people that are coming there, the people that are referred to Auburn Youth and Family Services increases almost all the time. And they're not going to turn people away. They're obligated to help them, and they want to help them. So they're providing these services at that cost. And what we would like to do is, after the 6 years, we would like to try to help them to get a little bit more stability. So we've asked Auburn Youth and Family Services to come here tonight with a small presentation just to show you where the money goes, the services that they provide, and why the need is there. And we hope you will, you know, honor us. You know, I know you'll listen to us, but realize what the need is, and where it may seem like it could be substantial, it really doesn't go all the way to where we need it to be to meet their needs for what they're providing for us. So to present to us, we have Bill and Sally coming up, and they're going to go through our quick presentation. And if you do have any questions, could you please just hold them till after the presentation, and they'll be glad to answer anything that you have.
Absolutely. Thanks, Norm.
Thank you, Norm, and thank you all for giving us the time. We know you're very busy, but Sally and I wanted to flesh out a few of the details that Norm alluded to in his opening remarks. And my name is Bill Mahoney. I'm the volunteer treasurer of Auburn Youth and Family Services. And let me switch a page here. Again, we just want to give you a brief update on the status and the condition of Auburn Youth and Family Services. Our annual budget is just over $300,000, and we get about a third from the funding of the town through the town contract through the Auburn Youth Commission. So that's, for the last 6 years, that's been $110,000. We also get about $100,000 through fundraising. That includes our annual town appeal, and it includes all the events that happen during the year. I'm sure you're aware of the Dancing with the Stars and events like that. We have a wine tasting program in the fall usually. So those events are a lot of hard work, and we have people who work hours and hours on those, but it does help us generate some funds. funds. So throw all that together and we get about $100,000 a year. And then also we have grants and fees for our programs, our summer programs and our after-school programs. We have people who pay fees for participation in that. So our budget is our source of revenue is split about those three different ways. And as Norm said, for the last 6 years, we've been receiving $110,000 through the contract with the Youth Commission, and so it's been level funded. And we're trying to just point out to you the additional need that we have. Currently, there's a contract that Auburn Youth has with the town, and I won't read all these items, but these are all the various paragraphs of the contract that we've agreed to provide services to. And the next page is a rather busy document, and I won't go over in great detail, and you have it passed out in your packet, but it's a review of the cost of providing these services per the contract for the last 6 years. And very briefly, the first line is just maintaining a building, heat, lights, and air conditioning in that building, et cetera. That cost has gone up over the last 6 years. Maintaining professional staff, this has been our only really variable expense that we could control. So we are actually down this past year compared to where we were 6 years ago. And if you look across the chart, we were forced because of increasing costs elsewhere and difficulties in raising money through fundraising. It's been more difficult to get money through grants during these economic times. There's more agencies looking for the same source of dollars from grants, and so that has also been very difficult. And also it's been very difficult to raise money in our annual appeal in recent years. So we had to really maintain our own level funded budget, if you will, and our only variable expense really was staff hours, so we really have cut back on line 2 while still maintaining the ability to deliver services to the town. And then the only other thing on this chart I want to point out is basically lines 6, 7, and 8, as well as 9, get into the detail of the hours of services that we provide under the contract. Line 6, we're supposed to maintain or service 150 hours of middle school counseling services. And you can see in the this past year, we actually provided 170 hours. And all the way across the board there, we've have provided at least 150 hours, usually more, for that line item in the contract. Line 7, in the past year, we provided 355 hours. The contract called for 350 hours. So we're right on target with that one. But the big glaring variance is line 8. The contract asked for us to provide at least 100 hours of middle school counseling. And last year we actually provided 917 hours. And if you look across the row there, you can see each year we've provided in excess of what the contract called for by a wide margin. 815 hours, 873, 740, and 6 years ago was 537. So the point we're trying to make is that we provide services under this contract for the fixed cost or for the fixed revenue, and yet we provide well in excess of these of the required amounts. And if you look down the bottom, this whole chart was put together to try to reflect what our true cost of providing services under the contract is. So you can see it exceeds what the town provides, and we make up for the difference through the fundraising and the other activities and the grants that we mentioned on the earlier chart. So again, we just wanted to update you exactly how we operate and what we do with the money the town sends along. And I think the town is getting a great bargain for the dollar that the town is providing. Very quickly, most of you are familiar with this. These are the other services that we've provided to the community. I want to point out on the second line on this, there was a typo in what was in your packet. We served 3,522 clients last year. We'd love to have funding to serve 30,000, but that's obviously not the case. So I just wanted to point out that correction. So Sally's going to just expound upon this a little bit and talk about some of the response we get from some of our clients.
So through the contracted services plus the following programs and services that you see on your screen, we have an after-school program for children in ages 5 to 9, information and referral services that we do. People call and we refer them to other agencies or organizations either in the Auburn area or the greater Worcester area and help them with their needs. We have a food pantry that runs every other week. We have also a clothing closet as well. We offer a 6-week summer fun programs for grades kindergarten through 8th grade, and we have a leaders in training program that takes kids that are in grades 8th grade and on up, and they're provided with training and helping out in the younger children's program. First Day program, which with the help of Liz and Bill Gribbins, we raise additional dollars in the community to help provide kids with a new outfit and school supplies. And our holiday food and gift program, we provide gifts for families that are needing a little extra help at the holiday time, as well as food baskets. We also have lots of wonderful people that come through the doors and volunteer. A total of, if we were to pay people $10 an hour, we've had 3,979 volunteer hours. And if we were to pay them $10 an hour, that would be $39,790 in additional revenues that helps us with our programs and services. And Bill already kind of talked about the fundraisers. Fundraisers is a very important part of who we are to provide, the total services to the community. I'd like to kind of put a face to some of the numbers that Bill has been going over on his chart. So I'd like to read a testimony from a family to whom it may concern. When tragedy strikes out of nowhere, you think you have nowhere to turn, but you are wrong. My family knows firsthand how it feels when tragedy hits. I knew nothing of Auburn Youth and Family Services, other than they were located at Pheasant Court and we made donations through the school during the holidays. Little did I know that they would become a great part of my family. 5 years ago, when something bad happened, I brought my children to AYFS to get help dealing with the tragedy. My children were my first concern. What I did not know was that it was me who really needed the help. Dr. Sindoli has been by my side weekly for the past 5 years, and Sally and her staff have been by my kids' side. The first Thanksgiving after the tragedy, I was asked if I needed help with a Thanksgiving food basket. I looked at them. Huh? They kept telling me that they were going to be here for my family. Well, that is the truth. Through the years, they have given us scholarships for the kids to go to summer programs, food baskets for Thanksgiving, Easter, and Christmas gifts. And not just any gifts, but the gifts that are actually on my kids' Christmas lists. Auburn Youth was there when I needed help with fuel assistance. My kids have participated in the groups AYFS offers, such as Stick Up For Yourself. I don't know how they do it, but they do, and they never ask for anything in return. I am only one family. I can't imagine how many families in town they actually help. I know one thing. If I ever hit the lottery, I know where one big donation would be going. The smiles they put back to my kids' faces in our time of need can never be replaced. I will never be able to thank Auburn Youth and Family Services enough for all they have done for just my family. I can honestly say I don't know where I would be today without them. Sincerely, a huge supporter of AYFS. And in your packet, I did include 2 other letters of support. One is from a parent who has a teenage child, and the other one is from an 8-year-old girl. So thank you very much. We so appreciate your past and present support and the opportunity to come and present to you today.
Okay, so that's their presentation. You can see the need is there. And you talk about the families and people that they support. It isn't just people with lower income. These are people middle income, other people that are coming in on a daily basis for the help. They've always been there for us and for the people of Auburn. And I know, you know, when you stress the budget, and I know you guys have to look at every dime and do whatever, we've really tried to maintain what we've had for a long time. And I really think that we've come forward asking for this increase in our budget because it's time for the town to step up and to help them do what they do best and give them that. And so I would make the request that you honor our request and try to go that. You see where the money goes, you see who would help. All of this only comes back to help make the town of Auburn a stronger and better town. So we do appreciate you listening to the presentation, and again, we hope that you will consider our request for the increase. If you have any questions, Sally and Bill are here to answer anything that you have. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Norm, Sally, and Bill. Thank you all for your time. Definitely do appreciate you coming up. And actually, Bill, I know I was told not to interrupt you, but I did want to underline that you guys do work closely with both the school and the police department. And not that that gets overlooked, but it's something that every year, at least someone on this committee tries to underline when you come forward. So that's appreciated. At least one member of this committee that I know very well has had some offline discussions with town administration about trying to put a priority on additional dollars, and as the process moves forward, and that would be right through to the fall when we have a much better idea of our financing, there'll be some additional, shall we say, thumbs being screwed in a little tighter to see what we can do to help you out. We've said more than once before that we know it's been several years since then there's been basically a pickup in funding for Youth Commission, and I know we had dropped it down, I think it was several years ago, 6 years ago.
6 years ago
we
was
dropped
when
it, so,
we took that.
yeah. We're very cognizant of remembering doing that. I think most of us were on the board at that time. I'm going to open up to any questions. The budget request from town manager is $110,000 flat funded from last year, with a request from, I'll call it the Youth Commission, for an increase of $15,000 to $125,000. Any questions or comments from the board? Chris?
Sorry about coming late tonight. Just one quick, I may have missed this part, the
It's okay.
15,000? Did you earmark, is that earmarked for something specific?
It's just to, it's an increase that we've looked to, actually, for the presentation, the cost for the services that we've asked for the Auburn Youth and Family Services to provide. We have vastly underfunded for the amount of services that they provide for the 110,000. So we're asking for that just to begin to address the shortfall out of the money that is needed for the services that they provide to the town under the contract that we
So the
have.
answer is, it's not earmarked for something specific,
It's,
correct?
Correct. Any other questions at this point? Ian? No? Okay. And once again, just a reminder to all of you that the way the budget process has been working, at least as long as the nearly 20 years I've been on the board, is nearly every year, really, we don't find our funding for taking care of, I'll say, needs of this kind until as late as the fall town meeting. So if that number doesn't move by the first week in May, that doesn't mean it's been passed over completely. As you know, our budget process seems to run later and later due to no fault of our own. Beacon Hill seems to move very slowly regarding the budget. There being no other questions or comments, do I have a recommendation on the budget?
Can I just make a few
Sure,
comments?
absolutely, Ed.
Thank you, Norman, Bill, Sally, and everyone who's come tonight. I know they're passionate about what they do. They do a great job in providing a service to the youth of the community and other residents who require help. And it's hard to make a recommendation at level funding. And we recognize the need for we know they're providing a cost or a service of $175,000 for $110,000 that we give them. So we have made this a priority. It was part of the list that was sent to the Finance Committee, but it is still early, and things are not nailed down at this point. Things are still moving, number of pieces that we still have to consider, and how that fits into the total need. So we're going to do the best that we can do to try to make it some type of an accommodation to get you to where you want to be. But once again, it's contingent upon a number of things that, quite honestly, are not known at this time. So I think when the chair says, the fall may be a time to address this, because we're not going to get any final numbers from the Commonwealth probably until sometime in June.
Right.
That's a big piece of total revenue. And there are some other things that are still not known in terms of local receipts, in terms of employee benefits and how those renewals are going to impact the budget. So it's something that is on the radar screen. It is something that we will take a look at, and I want to thank you for coming forward and
Should we come back again in the fall, or should we, is it,
If there's any questions, we'll certainly have you back. You guys have done a fine job of presenting that incremental need, so that's not going to be the reason why we'd have you back
okay.
for that. We know we, to a degree, short fund you every year to the extent we would like to. So this is not an issue at all, but we'd love to have you come up every year and make sure the town realizes that they're getting $1.20 for $1 in what we're paying, in taxes or more. So I just wish we could have things more finalized right now. It's frustrating for us. And once again, it's the state really not living up to their goal of having the state budget numbers available to us when they're supposed to by law. And that's the way.
I appreciate you guys listening to what our presentation is and what we provide. I know you guys are well aware of it. We've come before you before.
Yep.
So I appreciate the time that you've taken to do that. And again, just keep us in your thoughts right there until it comes through, and they're going to keep on going. We
Just so you know, the town administration does have a priority list, and you are on that list, so this is not just some imaginary wish list. They're things that we really do want to get done as soon as we have a final budget. Okay?
We thank you for your
Thanks for your
consideration.
time, appreciate it.
And taking the time. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Sure.
When do you expect to have the employee benefits nailed down? Do you know?
excuse me?
Employee benefits, when do you expect to have those numbers nailed down?
Probably in the next, I would say next 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a town manager request for a budget of $110,000, which is...
Second.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thanks for your time and coming up. Much appreciated. Okay. Our next budget is Department of Development and Inspectional Services. And the face of that department, Adam Burney, is here for us.
And what a face it is, right?
And what it is. Adam, I think you know I'll call it the budget drill now. We'd like to hear from you first in terms of your budgets. I know that's a plural. So if you could give us a somewhat brief overview of what you've got in front of you, and if you could include, off the top of my head, I think there were a few things you had requested that didn't make it to the
There
Good
was.
number?
I think there was only one thing that didn't make the actual lineup, but
Yeah, if you
So-
want to just take your budgets in order, that'd be
Sure.
great.
we'll start with the
Just
Board of
one more
Health.
thing. Okay.
Overall, we're seeing a reduction through the Board of Health. We're seeing that through a longtime employee leaving, a new employee taking that position at a slightly reduced rate, and also the health inspector position being taken by a new employee, also at a reduced rate. We've upped the nurse service budget. That's a conversation we had with town administration about 2 years ago. We're looking to return the funding level to at or about the FY09 level. Our nurse was kind enough to provide equal services for less pay over the tight budget years. So we're trying to ensure that she's actually being paid fairly for the amount of work she's been putting in over the past few years. So it's about a 10% increase. It comes out to less than $1,000, about 900 and change. Again, she provides all our communicable disease services, that kind of stuff. It's a 5-year plan at about 10% a year. leveling out right around 12.5. So we'd see that realized in about FY18. You'll notice that there is a reduction in the travel budget in the Board of Health. It's not a massive reduction, but it is a reduction. The purchase of the vehicle has allowed us to take that reduction. I'm sure you've all seen it as you pull in. It's kind of hard to miss with the big blue stripe, and
Which one is it?
it's the one that says Development and Inspectional Services.
All right, they look
They
the same.
they both look the same. One says Assessor, one says Development and Inspectional Services.
All right, fine print.
They have been in service for less than a month, but to this point, we've only put one tank of gas in it, so I think we're coming out ahead on that front. I think the year's time will tell us what the actual savings looks like. Other than that, you're seeing a fairly level-funded budget. Education, compliance checks, all the stuff that was in there last year has remained the same, and our budget seems to be functioning well there. Moving on to planning, you're seeing an increase in the assistant planner economic developer line item. If you'll recall, when we funded that position this time last year, or when town meeting funded it in May of last year, it was funded as a half-time 6-month position to be upgraded to a half-time full-year position as of this budget. So that 12.5 goes to the 25,000, and that's the difference. Is it's for the full fiscal year as opposed to the January to June timeframe. All the other adjustments are either contractual or otherwise mandated. The clerical is a contractual obligation per the GEU contract. The CMRPC assessment is based on their formulaic 2% increase annually as allowed by Mass General Law. So other than that, you're not seeing, you also are seeing, an increase in training. That is a combination of a training budget for the planning board. Some new members have expressed the desire to indulge in additional classes, as well as training for 2 staff as opposed to just for myself. Eric, our assistant town planner or planner economic developer, has some classes he'd like to take, and so we're looking to provide that so he can continue to grow and provide additional services to us. As we move into the building inspections division, you're seeing bylaw increase from this year's evaluations and adjustments in the building inspector. Contractual obligation of increase is reflected in the town manager's recommendation for clerical. Our request was for additional funds for clerical. In order to provide additional service, our current clerk is working only part-time. She's only in the office 2 to 2.5 days a week. That poses some difficulty for processing permits in a timely manner, closing permits out. We're in the process of exploring electronic permitting, which may actually eliminate the request for additional clerical hours, but it may bring additional costs on the upfront of purchase of software and equipment to run that software. But long-term, our intent is to hopefully streamline some of the inspection process and take some of the time that it takes to do follow-up and writing letters. A lot of the software will help you generate those letters based on drop-down menus, but we'll be back to, I'm going to plant the seed now, and we'll be back to water it later.
Well said.
The assistant building inspector salary is staying the same. He'll reach his year milestone sometime in the fall, so there is no adjustment as of this year. You'll also notice a slight reduction in the travel within the building inspector line. My hope is that I'm giving you money back at the end of next year from both of those travel budgets, but I would rather be conservative and take a small amount now than come back here this time next year and beg you and Eddie to find some coins to pay my mileage budget.
That's not going to happen.
I know where you keep the mattress.
Kramer?
And other than that, you're seeing the line items level funded, fairly consistent. Then we move on to the Conservation Commission. We're looking at just contractual increases for the clerical staff. Their dues remaining level. Their education is remaining level as of last year. They do have a series of classes that they are not required but encouraged to attend, both within the conservation community as well as through the administration. We want to make sure they're versed in all of the laws and technical bits that they need to know. And then we move into both the animal inspector and the, it says, I guess we did change it, animal control officer / dog officer. Those budgets are level funded. I know that we have been having conversations internally about the long-term future of that position, but those funds are going to remain fairly level regardless of what the ultimate status is. It's a position we're required to have by law. It's just a matter of what form it will ultimately take.
Okay. So that may be in process, but that is by no means...
It won't be this budget
Yeah.
wouldn't be affected. We're anticipating any alterations would be within the budget that's laid out at this time.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing I noticed.
Sure.
Under the planning division, if you look at the level of increase, that formula is not correct, but it doesn't change, the bottom line total is correct, but the division total, we'll have to recalc on that.
So that percent is incorrect?
It's showing a $3,400 increase, that's incorrect.
The dollars are incorrect. The percent correct, Ed?
The dollars are correct, no, I don't know, I'd have to take a look at it.
I think the total budget is correct. I think that the difference and percentage are incorrect.
Right.
Okay, so they're both incorrect.
Right, so we'll make a correction there. But it doesn't change the bottom line total
Okay,
that is shown on the animal control dog officer,
yeah.
right at the bottom, total.
So the,
Department, 430,000?
yeah, the numbers below it are both correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll reference those just for public's sake. Eddie, we're gonna get someone in here that knows numbers. So the bottom line variance or increase is correct?
That's correct.
8%, okay. That's fine. So you didn't bring up any of your posse there? None of your division heads or anyone, just,
My people work so hard, I like them to not have to come to numbers meetings on a Wednesday night. I like them
Like
to
what you
get
think.
get their sleep so they can get up
was
at 2 o'clock in the morning.
gotta
and-
say, they may get a better night's sleep coming to my meetings here. I'm gonna open this up for questions. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a dog officer? I was looking for the department. Is she on the name, or he or she, or whoever that is, on the list?
I'm sorry, is she not on the list?
Yeah, I don't,
Yes, Darlene Wood is the dog officer. She works she's paid on an on-call basis at this time, and that's what we're looking to correct or alter. Make it a more stable position and increase some of the clerical and administrative portion of it. But that would be done within the existing budget.
Now, would that increase the responsibility to more than just dog?
the roster. I didn't see your name on the roster. So, sorry.
Okay. Would that change?
No,
Obviously, it's not a dollar change that won't have.
The state law requires that they be called animal control officers now.
Okay.
So the state has moved the position in general into a more than dog position.
Okay.
But what a little more permanency would do is give us more teeth in chasing licenses and tickets, and actually, I hate to say this in front of you guys, but hopefully increase some revenue, because it potentially would get the people who aren't licensing their dogs to do that, and that does generate some revenue.
Makes sense.
So if you could add Darlene Belcito onto your roster, and that's an on-call at $15
It is.
per call?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's a stipend of $15 per
We thought she should be in there. That's fine. Any other questions? Kim, anything over the? No. Okay.
I got one
Chris,
more,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
I remember this, a few years ago, there used to be a position, it was the land use officer.
The land use officer
How was that
was,
position evolved into something else?
well, actually, that was a position that was within the engineering department.
Okay.
And I don't want to, it's evolved into the assistant town engineer. So I don't know if you remember the gentleman who had the position, Matt Benoit. He left to chase his Hollywood dreams, and that was probably about 9 months to a year after Bill Coyle had started here. And so what Bill did is he really looked at it, and he looked at his needs, and that position was created to address a lot of the stormwater utility issues, which generally sort of fit under the engineering division. So he looked at that and he said, I really need someone who understands stormwater and the purpose of that, and they went out and they hired Joanna Paquin, who is now the assistant town engineer. And so they took the role that was focused just on stormwater, and they sort of pulled it in and made it a more beneficial role for the town and for the engineering division.
Thank you.
I remember it the same way, too. Very good. Ed, anything?
No, looks pretty
Dan,
straightforward.
any questions? Okay. No, I think you touched on kind of everything I was a little quizzical on there. I'll throw out one question just to make sure you realize that I looked at this budget. Actually, just under the Public Health Division, we had started an account last year, nuisance remediation.
Yes.
Is that getting used? I just haven't dug deep in if...
Interesting you say that. The funds haven't been touched as of yet.
Okay.
And part of that is, in the fall, the town started working with the Attorney General's office on the abandoned housing initiative, where we go and we identify problem properties, we write them the naughty letter. When they don't respond, we work with the Attorney General to turn it over. And that's been working very well. There are certain properties that we address that don't fall into the parameters of that program, and that's what our hope was to use some of that funding for. What happened is with Mr. Pelletier leaving in the fall, there was a lot of transition work that had to be done, so I know that Ms. Coyle has a property in mind and does plan to expend those funds as the weather starts to warm up and the snow starts to melt and they can actually get in and secure certain properties. We also, if you'll recall, had set up a revolving fund at town meeting last year for the same purposes. And when we expend those funds, what we'll do is we'll be leaning them back to the revolving account in the hopes that we can build a nice little nest egg in the revolving account and start to wean our operational budget out of this. I expect, again, it's going to be a 2 to 5 year process, depending on what we're able to lean, how quickly people pay those liens off, and we can move forward on that.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right, there being no other questions or comments, I'm going to read through the division budgets and then the total budget, and then we'll take a motion on that, which is how we've been handling these. So the first division budget is the Public Health Division, amount requested $161,269. That's compared to a $165,959 appropriation last year, so a decrease of just under $4,700. The second division is the Planning Division, amount requested $115,238, which is an increase from the fiscal 14 appropriation of $94,058. The next division is the Building Inspections Division, amount requested $100,801. And that compares to $99,967 in fiscal 14. The next division is Conservation, amount requested $12,904, up just over $1,000 from fiscal 14's appropriation. The next division is the Animal Inspector Division. Amount requested is $2,500, which is level funded from prior year. And the Dog Officer Division, amount requested $37,600, which is also level funded from the prior year, for a department total for the Development and Inspection Services of $430,312, an increase of $18,402, or 4.47% over the fiscal 14 appropriation. Any questions, or do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Adam, thanks for your time.
Thank you all. You
Nice
make this
work.
fun. Have
Good
a
to see
night,
you.
guys.
Take care, everyone. All right, next up, we have Department of Public Services Library. Good evening, how are you?
Good. I am here with two issues. In addition to the budget, I need to request a budget transfer.
Yes, we have that. Which would you like to take care of first?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm more worried about the immediate consequences of the budget transfer, so maybe I'll do that one first.
Okay, that's fine, Marie. Here, it's Diane, I'm sorry. I grabbed the wrong one. And there are two transfers. Okay, now that makes sense to me, I had the wrong transfer. So let's take care of the transfers first. The first one, this is for the library. We're transferring from the electricity account $4,000 to buildings and grounds. And this is to cover the cost to repairs to the furnace, doors, and let's just say any miscellaneous items through the balance of the year. Do we have any comments or questions on that? That's from the electricity budget.
What, did
Chris, go ahead.
something break?
Yes, several things. Particularly, we've had problems with a number of issues with the library boiler that have had to be repaired almost constantly, and we have a lot of things have had problems this year, and we've just run out of building and grounds money.
So I assume, Diane, that the 4,000 will include some sort of cushion for some possible needs through the next couple of months?
I hope so.
Okay. No, those things happen. That's fine, and, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
You think the electricity, the 4,000, the 4,500, you'll have enough money to cover your bill, I assume?
Yes.
Because it looks like with our second transfer, which we'll get to, that's going to drain the account to zero.
To zero.
At this point, we have not received any electric
Oh, yeah,
bills.
General Services is picking up that cost in our electricity account. So unfortunately, we don't get a separate bill or meter reading. It's clustered with other municipal buildings. So we wanted to identify a cost associated with electricity and heat.
Right.
In order to meet our net minimum contribution is required by Massachusetts State Library System. So that's why we identified those costs. We made a commitment to Diane early on that she would absorb the cost to the extent that she has within her budget, whether it be for electricity or heat. We know it's shy, but over a period of time, we want to be able to increase that budget. So, you know, every year, we're just barely making that net minimum contribution.
Right.
We're now about $5,000 greater than required. So we're moving in the right direction. We will continue to adjust that as other budgets are submitted. But we want to identify the true cost, all true costs associated with operating the library.
She just doesn't get the bill herself.
No.
Right. Okay. Makes sense? Even to you? Yeah?
It's similar to the indirect costs that we recognize on the school side.
Yes. Okay. Okay then, do we have a motion on this first transfer?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. The second transfer, which is from the electricity account, the balance, which is $4,500, going to the heating oil account, and that's to cover the cost of gas for the remainder of the year. Pretty self-explanatory. Is that going to leave you anything extra for that, or?
I am just not sure at this point. This is our
Okay.
first experience with gas. I know we have a,
Oh, converted?
Yeah.
Okay, even
Yes.
better. That's
So,
good to know.
I think we're doing better than we were before we went to gas, and
Yep.
this is kind of our experimental year.
Okay, no, I just converted to gas too, and so good for us doing that. Any questions? Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed, so voted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, that was easy. Nice.
Thank you for the explanation, Ed.
Actually, thank you. Okay, let's get to your budget now. We have before us a budget request, a town manager requests $580,012. The department request is $590,649, which is, department request is about a $20,000 increase over last year, and the town manager request is just under $10,000, an increase from last year. So Diane, if you could kind of fill us in on your budget, and if you'd like to add a little bit of color as to where you differ from the town manager, that's fine too.
I think that just, we're anticipating cost of living increases, or as well anticipating the shortfalls that we have right now, that usually we pick up out of our state aid account. At this point, the two issues that are the most particular of concern to us are increasing the computer services amount from $30,000 to $31,500. That is actually an actual increase in what it is going to cost us to provide that service. And under equipment and rental, or equipment rental, this year we paid $2,650 and thought maybe we would see if we could go up to that amount, and again, see how far we will end up from that. So those two issues are our main concerns.
Okay. Ed, if,
Just another comment.
Sure.
And, I think the budget primarily is driven by the contractual obligations that were just settled during this fiscal year. And we had a lot of discussions about the library material, and we recognize that is a need. But we also noticed that under the governor's budget, the level of state aid has increased. So we thought maybe that it offered Diane and the library an opportunity to utilize the increase in those funds to help that need in the library materials line item. And certainly, there's some money left over from prior cherry sheet distributions that's available to the library as well. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this, and certainly, I think at least the governors, and I know there's a big push for additional library aid, so that may offer another opportunity for them to utilize an increase in those funds to help offset some of the increased costs or need within their budget.
to anticipate Chris's question, are we meeting the minimum requirement?
I was going to ask that.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the budget that I spoke to you and Julie about, we would meet the minimum requirement.
Yeah, I normally put it on the bottom of
Right.
the worksheet. I think I asked Diane to provide that to me. I know we had that discussion when we reviewed the
Yes.
budget. Do you know what that number is offhand, Diane?
No, and I forgot to bring it also.
Okay, but we have met that minimum requirement. I want to say
Which number?
the budget exceeds that by roughly $5,000. That was my recollection.
So the town manager budget, which is less than Diane's budget, still meets it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing I had a concern about was the building and grounds line, and I am not sure that we haven't just had a really tough year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, last year, we didn't have this I mean, it's almost like you don't know what's going to
Right,
up each year, so.
right.
Public service.
Well, and that's that area where, hey, look, you do the best you can budgeting. The town finds the money to take care of certainly emergencies, which they do happen. As we had the youth commission in here earlier, we've got a very preliminary state budget, which always changes. And we're always hopeful that there's additional funds by the time we get to fall town meeting. So hopefully sometime, maybe not by the first week of May, but later on, we find some funds available to make sure that those needs are kept, buildings and grounds, for all of the municipal and school facilities. We want to make sure, get attention first when stuff comes up.
Right.
So we respect and we appreciate you come forward with that. The buildings aren't getting any newer, we understand that. Any other questions? Yeah.
Heating and electricity? I'm just asked the obvious question, because you talked about this transfer. I mean, if we're not paying for electricity out of the account, why are we putting 85? I know why, I'm just wondering why it's being budgeted this way.
Well, I think what we are going to attempt to do is try to determine what the true cost of electricity is to the library and begin charging the library directly.
What that'll do is that'll create the cost to the library, the investment we're making in it to help us meet that minimum state requirement for the cost to running the
We just don't know what that
library.
number is.
If I were to remove that now, I'm below the minimum contribution.
Right.
So, it is a cost associated with the library, although they're using it for another purpose, as a result of the transfer, it's still now counted as a library expense, as an actual expense. In terms of the net minimum contribution, my notes from a meeting we had on February 10th, I think it was the first budget review, I had $577,000.
Yes, that's,
577.
Was communicated to me from Diane, and our recommendation is 580, so it's $3,000 higher than required.
Okay. Chris, you satisfied with Ed's answer on that? I mean, you could also
Yeah, but
argue
you can
that
still
the,
you can still, I mean, why, if it doesn't show up in the line item, right? It doesn't show up as part of the overall budget?
They calculate it based on direct appropriation.
Okay.
and arguably the heating costs, whether you call it heating oil or whatever it's gonna be, that number's gonna move around quite a bit and actually hopefully down in terms of actual usage.
last year,
So,
that particular line covered oil, so,
yeah.
so we did use it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's, now, you're still having boiler issues. Did that get converted? I mean, I assume
No,
it
it
did.
didn't, and Ed and I had talked about that, and I don't think we ever finished the discussion. I think that we still have some money to do that.
There is an authorization to replace the boiler. We had the boiler looked at. The individual that we had, who's a town employee, who's familiar with heating systems, has indicated to us that the boiler does not need to be replaced. Feels as though some
Conversion?
modifications can be made. But that was information I received about a week or 2 weeks ago. So we're still having discussions about what to do, so.
The way to approach it. Okay, that's fine. Good. No, it's still a good investment, I think. Cleaner, a lot more efficient, and a lot less expensive. That's good. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we have a budget request from the town manager before us for $580,012. It does meet the minimum state requirement, and is an increase of $9,641, or 1.69% over the fiscal 14 appropriation.
Motion to recommend? Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed, so voted. Great. Diane, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Hopefully, you don't have any more emergency transfers, but feel free to join us anytime. Great, thanks. All right, Marie, how are you? Nice to see you, too.
Married to a teacher.
Thanks for your patience.
Sure.
You have a transfer, correct?
I do.
This one, I don't know. We might have to put this on a shelf here. The last person to do something like this was our town CFO, and I don't think we took care of it for months at a time. We have before us a transfer request from the Council on Aging from the office supplies account. Amount requested is $1.59 to the maintenance building account. This is for the cost of goods exceeding appropriation. I don't know that it needs explanation, but I think as a matter of course, I'll open it up if anyone has a question on this one.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Someone's got to manage the decimal point on your calculator a little better there or something? That's fine. All right. Let me try to find your budget here.
Okay.
Is it? Okay, great. Okay. So we have a town manager request for the Senior Citizen / Elder Services Division of $133,725, which is a just under $2,500 increase from prior year appropriation of 1.89%. So if you could give us a little color on this?
Sure.
Great,
That
thanks.
whole 1.89% is to meet our contractual obligations through the Clerical Association. In terms of the line items themselves, there's actually a $90 decrease in the request.
Okay.
What we did was take some of the line items and move them around to the areas that we needed most, which were in our equipment maintenance and building maintenance and so on. Other than that, it's
That's it, huh?
pretty straightforward, yes.
I had you wait for almost an hour for that.
Perfectly fine.
That's terrible. That's terrible. I'll open this up to questions or comments from anyone. Yeah? No? Okay, great. Then I'll accept the motion on this.
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Okay. All right, so in quick work, we get through all the budgets and transfer requests. So Sharon, can you fill us in on what we may have before us next week? We're doing pretty well, right?
We talked about BayPath, but I don't know what the committee wanted.
Yeah, that's right, thank you. We had talked briefly last week about BayPath coming in to discuss either and their operating or capital budget. I certainly am kind of curious to see how the renovation remodel project is going, and I haven't heard anything in the news, not that I trust it. But we've got a few weeks left in the process. We're doing real well with it, actually. We may, knock on wood, end a little early on this unless there's new information that comes up. So it's the committee's pleasure if you want John to come in, or John and his team to come in to talk about anything regarding BayPath. Chris, any opinion? Now, if you do have them come in, you got to actually show up for the meeting, too. There's a courtesy here, there's a lot of pressure. All right, so Any other opinions that are really adding something here?
Let's have him come in. And
Okay.
Jim had requested it last week, too.
I
Yeah.
thought he had also.
So, just to hear about the, because you talked about the water
All right,
and
I'll
the
ask
agreement for the
the
water.
said Bay Path person to,
Well, we'll-
ask the said Bay
Do they
Path
want
person.
one next week?
I don't know, I haven't.
What do we have left for departments? We've got a couple, 3
Well,
weeks.
debt and interest will be ready to come in.
Okay.
Employee benefits, I think we'll have a handle on that.
Including,
Emergency management, we have legal and the reserve still to
Veterans
consider.
for the- Veterans? Veterans, yeah.
Veterans. I mean, we can clump all that in one night.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I have I'd rather get 4 or 5 in here. It's still not going to be a long night for us, but
Yeah.
we could have this nailed down. I know the warrant just closed. Sharon was going to try to figure out when that's going to get in front of the Board of Selectmen, because after they're done with it, we'll have a chance to look at it. Are there any state numbers that are expected to come in before mid-April? I mean, that's really our cutoff time too, right? Don't we get a group health number?
House Ways and Means is scheduled to release their numbers on April 9th. That's the date we've been told, so.
Nah. That's no
I think
reason.
it's too late to
Yeah.
consider any of
Yes.
that for a May, so that's really
Okay.
a post-annual town meeting consideration.
Okay. So the only other big number is if there's any surprises with health insurance, right? And we usually get that in end of March, don't we?
Yeah, the renewals, I think the bids have been received, but they have to do some calculations based upon what we actively have right now, and any assumptions we give them in terms of new personnel, retirees, and things of that nature.
Okay,
And there are some changes based upon some contractual agreements, which really shift the level of contribution for several groups. So all that has to go into the hopper before we can have a solid number. So, I mean, we can estimate that probably by next week with, there are some assumptions we have to make, so I'd like to bring that one in last.
okay. That's, so long as, if it's a pretty good number, then great. Be good to act on that. What I'd like to do, if the committee is agreeable to it, is, I think the toughest person to get in may be Bay Path. So if they can't come in next week, maybe schedule them for the following week, and I don't see us needing to meet, and we'll take care of Bay Path and the rest of the budgets. And if we happen to have an updated insurance number, so much the better. But I'm not here just to try to meet for 45 minutes if we don't need to. Meeting 2 weeks from now instead of next week. If that's easier for John LaFletch, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, at what point do you want to consider capital?
We'll do it then also. We've been, talking about it right along. In fact, might have overlooked some stuff tonight. Library has some stuff in process though, right? That was approved last year, right? Some inactive kind of thing on it. There was nothing really to address. So I think that's all set. So if it
The
makes.
library need for fiscal 15 is only $12,000, which
Okay.
is a standard
Yeah.
CIP article for the
Yeah.
Amaris system, or it's a computer
Right.
replacement system.
Yeah, okay.
So, senior center had a $6,000 request for 15 for a handicap rear door that's been on the
It's been on
for a while.
Right. No, this.
And I don't think there's anything for Department of Inspectional Services.
Okay, no, that's fine. So why don't we leave it, Sharon, if you can get in touch with Bay Path, find out when they can come in, and we'll plan our meeting for that night, if that works. I just have a funny feeling the town, you're gonna have trouble getting Board of Selectmen to vote on the warrant, though, in the next couple of weeks, right? That'd be a little tight.
Are they putting on
Well, I was going to try to have them vote to at least approve the content
that for a legal review? Yeah.
on Monday.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk.
On the plus side, we're definitely going to at least have one Wednesday in the next 3 that we won't need to meet, guaranteed. And if we do it right, maybe 2. I mean, per our discussion, seemed pretty innocuous what was on the town meeting warrant relative to big finance numbers. Not much at all that I saw or that we talked about. Okay. So then Sharon will be in touch. We'll either meet next week or the following week, hopefully, and try to tie up everything. I still don't think it's going to be a long meeting. We've done a heck of a lot of hard work over the last month, and nice job with town administration, kind of organizing things that makes things a little easier for us anyways. Anything else?
Yeah, one comment. Just to let you know where we stand, that we roughly had $2,000 in change when we started this process. It looks like because of the refunding issue we had on the high school bonds and the level of interest that we calculated on the short-term notes, may free up about $12,000. So I'm going to work on that in the next couple of days and schedule that debt. So that may put amount available for consideration on any one of the budgets that's before you. There may be now like $14,000 available.
Okay. And I'll leave it to we all have our, I think, list of what the town priorities were in terms of people's thoughts on that, so.
Now, and my guess would be, or at least in terms of, and I have to talk to the town manager, we would probably recommend at this point to leave it unobligated until the final numbers come in. Because there could be a change in a number of things, but.
Sure.
Because we can always address this once again a little further down the road for fall.
Right, right. And in terms of, say, the youth commission, just as an example, where that's really a sum of money, there's no benefit adjustment, that's over and above on that. And unfortunately, we've reduced that budget before. We could do it again if, something unforeseen happened in the future. So let's keep that in mind in terms of how we think, where we may want to spend some of these, I'm calling very small amounts of money, just due to some fortuitous things, certainly with the interest expense savings. Kim?
As much as I'd like to address those priorities at this point, I personally would rather wait until the fall and see if we can get some decent.
Yeah.
Because 14,000 isn't going to really address the things that we'd all like to address. We all have things that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Dividing that
and
15,000 into 5 pieces is not going to give anybody.
Well, and by the way, it's town meeting that will vote to do whatever with that anyways. So we can let the town decide on if need be.
If this board chooses to recommend that additional appropriations be addressed at the fall town meeting.
Yes, that I agree with.
The town meeting is very apt to listen to that recommendation.
So that's a good thing to maybe put in your
because
speech.
that
I don't remember. I just remember that the microphone gets real loud. I can't hear myself.
that
I
whole
say thank you, and
list
that's
of
it.
stuff that departments asked for. When we get a better feel, I would really like to be able to address a couple of those.
Right. Hey, we've gone into the annual town meeting with several $100,000 of, non-earmarked funds, and we waited for fall town meeting, so this isn't going to set a precedent. But just as long as we keep it in mind, and it's nice we've got a priority list
Especially
that we
if
can talk to.
can't attack the OPEB money. I've been told I have to leave in a moment.
And you're going to listen to someone finally? Come on, Kim. You must be
It's
not.
hard.
You must be not feeling well.
It's hard, I guess.
Actually, a few other
Yes,
comments.
the upgrade to the bond rating was,
Yeah, that was enough.
And
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for bringing that up, because I wanted to at least bring the Finance Committee, I think when we came to you last time about the bond rating, the bids weren't received on the bonds yet. And I think we had indicated that there was some true taxpayer savings totaling $2.5 million. Actually, the number was $2.984 million. Total savings as a result of refinancing those bonds to the taxpayers. So that's a total savings on an annual basis of about $298,000 to the taxpayers, and which would result on a total savings to the average homeowner about $33 per year. So that's good news. Also,
And that's over a 10-year period, right?
is that on override borrowings, or is that,
this is strictly the refunding issue for the money we borrowed for the Auburn High School, which was
Okay.
$19 million and change. At the point we
okay, so that is actual, like, reduction in a tax bill?
Yes, it's debt
Because-
exclusion reduction.
It's an
because it was
offset
a-
to any increase that may happen on the tax bill. As a result,
I mean, if a taxpayer were to get a tax bill that had the debt exclusions
Yeah.
as separate,
yeah,
you know,
Itemized.
high school debt exclusion
Itemized.
costs me $120.
Yes.
Then I
Yes.
would actually see on
Yes.
that line item,
yes,
that line go down.
correct.
I'm just trying to get to the fact that it is a real savings, because I think sometimes when we see our tax bills and there's an increase, we assume that it's because our spending is up. And it's really, it's a whole lot more complicated
Right.
than that. And you guys talk about saving the taxpayers money, but then they don't actually see it in their bill. They expect a $33 less on the bill, and
Right. They're expecting a $33 reduction from what they're seeing now next year, and that's
Yeah.
not the way it works.
and that's not how it works. So effectively, their
It's an-
tax bill would be $33 higher
Yes, if we did not do the
if we
refinancing.
did not do that. So it is real savings.
Yes, correct.
I was just trying to get to that, because
Yeah.
I think people don't
Right,
get that, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Doesn't happen often.
and more importantly, going forward, now that we are preparing to bond $24 million to finance our net share for the middle school, as a result of the bond rating we received from S&P, on a conservative basis, using a 25 basis point spread, and we realized a 55 basis point spread on this latest issue for the it would save the taxpayers of this community $630,000 at 0.25%, 25 basis points, on $24 million over a 20-year period. So if we were to realize the same spread, roughly 55, the taxpayers are going to realize roughly double it, $1.2 million over that 20-year period. That's pretty significant. That's,
and that's money that hasn't been borrowed yet, so the taxpayer is not
right.
paying that. They're not seeing that on their tax bill yet, because
Right.
that project hasn't started.
So that's why the rating is important to maintain and continue the work that we've done, because as you can see, that the savings is pretty significant.
Yeah, let's just
So
keep
I
in
guess
mind
we'll
on
leave
that,
OPEB
it's,
alone.
yeah, we'll leave OPEB alone. And both of these examples, one real and one soon to happen, are both debt exclusion, not operating budget
Right.
savings, or,
And that doesn't
Less
calculate the
interest.
savings on the capital we borrow outside of what we raise outside the
Which will
levy
happen,
limit.
yeah.
So to meet our townwide capital needs, on our CIP plan, there'll be savings there as well.
It's all good news.
Excellent.
All good news. All right, so once again, we'll try to minimize the meetings as best we can over the next 3 weeks, fill them up. None of them should be very long meetings anyways. And if there isn't anything else, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you.